first few days back. Was that one magical night when there was no homework? Remember that happy night? Okay, and we showed all the different types of graphs. The graph of half the side of this parabola is what? This graph here, does anyone remember? Hey, you guys really good? That's not here, that's good. You can go ahead. Radical square root of x. Okay, and we'll show you why it turns into that. We'll do some inverses today of parabolas, and we'll show you why that is. Okay. Here we go. Example 1. So again, the way if you're just joining our class or haven't been here often, that's my note. The rest stays from the examples the whole rest of the way through. All right. So here we go. Example 1. We're going to say if f of x equals x minus 2 squared minus 5, a graph f of x and f inverse of x. Okay, now this is the way we're going to do it in this unit. If I say use the 4 points method, I want the loops and the vertex and the y-intercept and all that stuff. If I just say graph, I just need the vertex. Okay. The reason for that is because the vertex is the only thing that it affects the domain and range. So what I'm going to do is a very rough sketch for today for this one. We'll do more complicated ones after because I want to do a few examples today if I can. What's the vertex of f of x, please? And which way is it open? Oh, actually, go ahead, by the way. Cassidy. What's the vertex of f of x? Okay.
2 negative 5.
Okay, so this is luckily already given to us in vertex 1, right? It's already given to us in vertex 1. Now, redeem yourself, Cassidy. What's the vertex of the inverse, please? Very good. Okay, this one is going to open upwards. All right, we'll figure out how this one opens, and we're going to make a rule for it in a sec. Okay, are we okay on where those numbers came from? Graphic equation. First it came in vertex form. As you can imagine, for every other example, you're going to complete the square. All right, but except for number 1. Yes.
Where's the top?
Yes, we make this. I'll send some of the volume one of these days just to see what happens. All right, 2 comma 5, negative 5 and opens upwards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it on my graph here. So here's my rough graph. This is a very, very rough sketch. I'm going to get to negative 5 is what I need to do. I apologize for the rough graph, but I just want this first one to be. You can just go to 5 and negative 5. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's slow down here. I'm getting too excited. All right, 2 and negative 5 should be no big deal opening upwards, okay? Because we've done this one a lot in grade 10 and a little bit in grade 11. There's 2 negative 5 opens upwards. Now I can hear what you're thinking. You're saying, wow, Mr. Sadler, is that where the x-intercepts are? Is that where the y-intercepts are? I don't think that is. Okay, for this case it doesn't matter because we're only dealing with domain and range. That's all this question is dealing with. Okay, so whether the graph goes through negative 2 or negative 3 or negative 4 or positive 2, that doesn't affect the domain and range. Okay, let's go through the inverse because this is one, I'll give you a second to scribble because this is the fundamental part for this question. Right? So I'm going to go negative 5 and positive 2. Now you have to look at your other equation. It looks to me like the y-intercept is about -2. So that point is going to be 0 and -2. What will the corresponding point be for the inverse then be? So 0 and -2 change to what? -0. So it looks like there's going to be a point like this, which means my parabola is probably going to look something like this. Approximately. The other way, if you don't like that idea, you can say, well, this one, the y values are getting bigger, and on the inverse, the x values are getting bigger, if you like that rationalization. If you don't, and the other way that some people do is it always goes in a plot, that if the original function is like this, the inverse is like this, the original function is like this, the inverse is like this. Okay, so any of those ways to remember will be useful to you. Okay, part B. Says, restrict the domain and range of f of x. So f inverse of x is a function. Now, before we do this, I want to make sure we understand what we're doing. Okay, because this is something that you have to do not get right. Okay? So, I'm starting with my parabola like this. Somebody tell me in English what I'm doing here. Chopping off one arm, good. Okay, so this is all I want to do. Can somebody tell me in math what I'm going to be doing to go from an equation like this to this? What has to happen to the domain?
You're restricting it.
Good. Okay, right. So let's say my vertex here is 2, 5. Let's say the vertex here is 2, 5. My chest is 2, 5. What am I doing to my x values then? If I want this. If this point is 2, 5. Right, or equal to equal work as well too. Very good. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the vertex, which is 2, 5. We're just going to say one x value is greater than that. You could also use this if you like this way. You can use that as well too. Okay, right?
Sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
So she
Last three.
said greater than or equal to 2 is what you said. Okay, right? So it's the x form of the vertex bigger than that. Okay, so we're going to say my domain is going to be all values of x such that x is greater than or equal to 2. And I'm just going to put in red, this is the x coordinate of the vertex. It's for the original function. Now the reason they make you do it to the original is because if you start like this and you find the inverse, it's fine. But if you start like this, it's not a function right away. Like you can't chop it once it's been inverted, it's too late. Are we okay on where that came from? Our vertex is 2, -5. We just went bigger than that, that's all we did. And if you're saying you don't, that's okay. We're going to do 10 examples of this today and tomorrow. For some reason, this is the most difficult thing. This question right here will be on your next test, on your assignment, on your midterm, on your final exam. Okay? And people will still get it wrong all 4 times. Please don't let a person be. Yes?
So, before we restricted that would have been
Anything. Right? Because like this will go on forever and ever. You're staying half it. It says like you could have chosen last 2 as well. Now let's do my range. Can someone tell me what my range is going to be for the red graph? What's the range going to be? Thomas, I'll pick on you since no one's raising their hand. Thomas, what's the range for this red graph going to be? You keep throwing money around. There's too much money. Range, go ahead. Greater than or equal to. So you see what we did here, right? So all I'm saying then,
No, I was just, how'd you get that?
for the range of the domain.
Yeah, the range.
The range. We're just doing back the red graph, right? So here's -5. You're saying y is above -5.
Oh, so we're just,
Because you have to affect the red first, right? Because if I do this, that's not a
Have
function.
we taken one of them away yet, though?
Yeah, we did. So just saying, if the vertex, this is the original function, looks like this, right?
Right.
Okay, so this is 2, -5.
Yeah.
Let's just say I do x is greater than 2. It just does that. Right? So your x values are bigger than 2. Your y value is bigger than -5.
Okay.
Right?
Now I understand.
Okay, and now we're going to do letter C here, if we can get it. Letter C. Please put a star in a heart beside letter C. This is another one that's described a generation of students here. Find the equation of f inverse x. All right. I'll put this in red, and it doesn't matter if I do or not, because people won't remember. But I'll write it anyway. Okay, now I am digitally yelling at you. If I was texting you, I would be like yelling at you so much right now because I'm using red and I'm using caps. Those are textures, right? You know I'm yelling at you right now. Okay? So you have to start in vertex form. Okay, you have to. And I'll show you why right now. Okay? And I will remind you of this every single time we do an example, and still on the test 5 of you will forget. Okay, now it happens every year, okay, right? But I'm going to remind you again and again. If you're fading out, James, I'm looking at you. You have to fade in on these, okay? Because this is a big question for this course. This is one of my faves. So I'm going to start with f of x equals x minus 2 squared minus 5. Is that the equation? That was it there, right? Okay. Looking back to the homework from last night, can someone be brave and give me a first step on what we should do with this for finding the inverse? Good, so y and for f of x, good. So let's start with that. We're going to start with y equals x minus 2 squared minus 5. Lindsay, define an inverse. What do we do? Sort of. What happens? What's the first step for finding the inverse? Go ahead. Alexander, go ahead. Flip what? The x and the y. Okay, so it's going to just go like this. So not 2 and the 5, right? The x and the y flip here. Now, this is why people get challenged here. It looks frightening. It looks scary here. All right? No, do not expand. Never expand. Okay? You want to get y by itself. So what you're doing, I'm going to make another joke here. Okay? Your math teacher is like an ogre. He has many layers. Get it? Come on, Shrek. Stay with me here. Algebra is the same way as Shrek. Okay? In order to solve for the y, you're going to just take the one step, the furthest thing away from y at a time. What's the furthest thing away from the y? Minus 5. How do you remember minus 5? Minus 5, thank you. Okay, now I don't want to FOIL it out because then it'll be a quadratic to solve with the y squared, and that's going to be awful. What's the next furthest thing away from the y right now? The square. Now here's the magic step. How do you get rid of a squared? Square root, okay? So what I'm going to technically do, I'm going to write this as plus or minus the square root of x plus 5 equals y minus 2. Now the reason it's plus or minus, this is plus the square root of x plus 5, that's minus the square root of x plus 5. So together, the sideways parabola is plus or minus.
Wait, why would you just get the square root of x plus 5 if you're getting rid of it?
Because you're going to square root this side, you're going to square root that side. That's what you're going to do.
Okay.
Right?
No.
Okay, just one last time. Okay, one last time for, can I talk please? One last time for the plus and minuses. For the sideways parabola, this this is positive square root of x plus 5. This is negative square root. Okay, that makes sense. Right, we two arms sideways. Okay, I want to close one too. Okay, so it's okay. So what happens is here, this right there is plus. This is plus the square root of x plus 5, which is one side. Okay, this part down here is going to give you negative the square root of x plus 5. So if you remember back to that remember the day with no homework? Okay, right, there's only one arm of the problem is all that happened, I suppose. Sorry, that?
So eventually, are we going to restrict that equation and just add, or is it?
Yeah, that'll still be correct. If you want to just use one arm, you can for your final answer.
Then we're gonna have to restrict it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, any other question before I move on here? Go ahead, Karina.
I should know that.
Okay, how do you solve for y? What's the last step? Okay.
+2.
Plus 2. I'm going to write this as, on the left-hand side though, 2 plus or minus the square root of x plus 5 equals y. I'm just going to write it on the left because it's easier to see than if you put it on the right. Okay, so my final answer is then f inverse x, oh goodness, equals 2 plus or minus the square root of x plus 5. I want to work one more example if I can. I'm going to write your homework on the board in case I don't get it finished. What I tend to do is I put a little hook on the end of the square root. That's called Waterloo style if you're in Mr. Lacey's class. He likes the idea of, and I do too, I like Waterloo. You know when the square root ends that by a little hook. You don't need to put that in there. I'm going to write your homework on the board and I'll do one more example. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here's the homework right now. Then we'll do one more example. Homework is page 161, number 4, 5, 7, 12, 15, 16, example 2. You look at this, I'm letting you. There's homework in this class. Yes, you can. It's just better form to do the coefficient in front because it's easier to see. Let's do a nice one today. We'll do a new one tomorrow. Okay, here we go. Find f of x in the equation for f inverse of x of that. Okay, now, what I'd like you to do first of all is to look up in example 1 to the big red letters. Okay, that were starred that I was yelling at you in a digital form. I wouldn't actually yell at you. Can someone think and tell me what the first step would be for f of x, please? Go ahead.
Get in vertex.
So I have, no, first step is I have to put this in vertex form. Guys, we're not going to actually finish it, please. I have to put this in vertex form. Could someone be brave, please? Mitch, I think up to you. Give me the first step in vertex form. Go ahead. Great, good, wonderful, tremendous. Lauren, next up here, please, is what?
Take the 2 divided by 2 square.
Yep. Great.
And then you put in
Okay, go ahead.
plus.
Okay, so we're just completing the square here. Which one comes next, please?
Take 1 out.
Okay. Negative 1 out, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to say equals 4 bracket x squared. Yeah, right on, good. All right, Noah, what's the last step here, please?
Bring in 1 squared and
Good. So 4 bracket x plus 1 squared minus 1. So there we go. Now, we need that to find f inverse of x. That's what we need. Okay? So, Chris, what's the first step to finding the inverse of that? What's the first step?
inverse of vertex.
Yeah.
So then if we were to write it out, if it was f of x, it
Yeah.
would be bracket -1 and -1, so then the inverse would just be the exact same.
Good, yes, but I want the equation for F inverse. Sorry, I want the equation for F inverse. So now we're just finding. I just want the equation for F inverse of X.
Oh, okay, so then, for,
Somebody help him here. He's doesn't want it there, somebody help him. I want to go. Yeah, that's the vertex. Okay, I'll help, sorry. Sorry, I mean, we're gonna start like this, right? You skip this? No, you can't skip this. No, yeah, you don't need to find the vertex. It never didn't say to find the vertex, right? I just need to put it in this form, because to find F inverse, you're gonna start here. Alistair, go ahead. Thank you. Okay, now this is a slight bit more complicated than the last one. Oh, I skipped you, by the way, Karina. You're coming up here in a sec. Okay. This is more complicated because we have more brackets going on in there. So, Karina, still the same thing applies. What is the furthest thing away from the y now?
The -1.
-1. How do you get rid of a -1? How do you get rid of a -1?
Add it.
That's good. So we're going to say x plus 1 equals 4, bracket y plus 1 squared. Wonderful. Tremendous. Awesome. Tanner, what's the next furthest thing away from the y, please?
and I think you put the 4 divided
Right on. I'm glad you're honest, okay? X plus 1 divided by 4. 1. So you do have to divide both sides by 4. Okay. Austin, next step, please, is what? Good. So I'm going to write it like this, plus or minus a big giant square root, because you're square rooting the entire thing. Now, someone in the back is going to say, well, isn't the square root of 4 2? And yes, it is. But I don't want to confuse you with stuff like that right now. No, because think, what you would have to do, you get to square root this, square root everything, square root this, square root this, square root this. We're actually doing opposite quick math. This is really what you're doing to solve an equation. You're either adding first, then you're dividing, then you're
Why are you dividing by 4?
Okay, slow down here, slow down here, slow down here. 1, 2, go ahead first.
Why are you last
Because in order to get rid of this square, the opposite of squaring something is the square root. So really I'm square rooting this. Well, I get this, because really I'm doing this as well too, right? But the square root of y plus 1 squared is just equal to y plus 1. Okay. Sorry, Karina, go ahead.
Why are you dividing by 4?
Okay, because guys, can you please stay with me here, guys? We gotta finish up, please. Okay. So the question was, why divide by 4? Well, this is just like 4 times all of this. Right, so go back through. And to finish up, that's going to be F inverse is -1 plus or minus the square root of x plus 1. Okay, guys, back, please. Stop. There's some great, someone bigger hair than you in class. Okay, there's the equation of your inverse. Now, in the homework, I'm sure they'll give you something like this, and it says, like, find F inverse of 3. So you got to find the equation first if they ask you a question like that again. Okay, you got to find the equation. This is just calculation work. The interrupter is you have to do it with vertex form. Okay, if you remember one thing from today, it says in vertex form. Yes.
So these is not real graph.
This do not say graph, no. If it says the graph it. But this does not say graph. You don't need to. All right. Oh, I still got 5 minutes. What am I rushing for? I still got 5 minutes?
No.
I totally have 5 minutes left, don't I?
Yes, you do.
I totally do.
I don't think
Why was I rushing?